Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Well, good morning. This is Stan coming to you from Gainesville, Florida, and welcome to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen coming to you from tropical St. Bart. And if you don't know, you are listening to Light Talk. And we are the Lumen Brothers and SISTAH. Welcome, everyone, to episode 271. Today, we welcome Tony-nominated lighting designer Jiyoun Chang to the show. Welcome, Jiyoun, and congratulations to your second Tony Award nomination.
Two?
That's very exciting.
I didn't know you had two. I want to hear about the other one. Okay.
Well, let's hear all about it. Steve has our first question.
Okay, so I'm sure we have a lot of students who listen to the show, and I'm sure they are all interested in your path to become a lighting designer. And I also understand you were interested in physics for a while.
Yes, I studied physics in college when I was in Korea. I grew up there. I was born and grew up there in Korea. And then I wasn't really happy about my life. So I paused and then quit college for a little bit and then spent some time to figure out what I really wanted to do. And then I did join like a children's theater company, and I did acting for a little bit, toured with the company for a year and a half, and then I said, okay, let's go for it. I'm going to be an actress. So I did acting a little bit, but it wasn't very successful in Korea. And I don't know what I thought, that I could be more successful in America as an actress, but that's what I decided to do. So I came here after I finished my college. My mother was a teacher, and she said, I cannot accept my child without a college degree. So please finish your college and do whatever you want to do. So that's what I did. I finished my college. I worked for a year, saved some money, and then I came and to study acting. And that wasn't very successful either. So in Korea, there's a saying, and some of my friends know this story, but there's a story saying that if you pull out a sword to cut something magnificent, do something magnificent, but couldn't do it for whatever unfortunate circumstance, you have to cut, even if it's a pumpkin, you have to cut something. So that's what I did. I search for a pumpkin that is perfect pumpkin for me. And then I was at Brooklyn College at the time. I actually got into lighting program afterwards. But I was just kind of searching things, what I could do and do well. And my friend was in set design program and costume program and such. So one day I walked into a theater. Somebody was focusing lights for Joe Turner's Come and Gone, August Wilson. And he was standing stage left by himself, and I didn't see the person who was focusing the light. And it was blue, just one single blue light coming down from upstage left. And I thought it was real. It was a very brief moment, but it was in the middle of the day. But I looked up and see if there was a hole in the ceiling, and obviously it wasn't. Hole in the ceiling, and I got so excited. I'm like, if I could see that, if I could believe in that magic, maybe I could do it. So I talked to the professor there at the time, Richard Kearney. I talked with him, and he said, all right, if you're interested, try it. So that's what I did.
I got to ask a follow-up. May I?
Yes.
So did you say that you went to Brooklyn College?
I went to Brooklyn College, yeah. It's a 2-year master degree program, MFA.
Yes. So, and did you say Richard Kearney?
Yeah, Richard Kearney.
So, okay, I am a Brooklyn College alumni.
Oh, yay!
So am I.
And so is Ellen. And so we have a little bit of old home week. And I don't want to go too far into me because this is about you, but I was the first BFA in lighting from Brooklyn College. And then, of course, now we have Justin Townsend teaching there. So Richard was a set design professor.
Right. But
Who was doing lighting what years were you there?
Well, 1998, 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was Kearney who taught lighting design.
Oh,
there was
interesting.
really no real lighting professional
98.
lighting designer. Yeah. And then Michael Hairstone, who was
Michael Hairston, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who was a wonderful mentor to me. I was an lighting intern for 2 years. It was good. My tuition got waived.
And you
learned
did
well.
you did the 2-year MFA.
I did a 2-year MFA because I wanted to apply for acting MFA. So I studied for a year because I had no theater background. I knew nothing. I did acting, but I knew nothing about, obviously, acting.
And so you know my dear friend Steve Bailey, who just retired. Steve was the lighting director.
Right. A little
Yeah.
bit. I don't know him very
you know
well.
Steve
But
that much?
yeah.
Okay, wow.
He was next door.
Yes, in BCBC.
Yeah, right.
That's
BCBC.
Right.
Oh, I heard that name so long ago. BCBC.
Yeah, BCBC. Wow, so that's really great to hear that how you made that transition from acting to lighting, and that's a great story. Wow. Well, go Brooklyn. I was the outstanding alumni 2 years ago at the Brooklyn College, which was wonderful. Wow, what a great story. That's so cool.
All right, that's a keeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got the next question.
Okay.
Well, I think you sort of answered it. Well, part of it answers. It's a 3-part question, I think. What brought you to the States from Korea, which I think you've already answered. How does working on Broadway differ for you from off-Broadway or regional theater for you?
Right. So just to explain that situation, I did a moving light tracker. I worked as a moving light tracker once on Broadway. I think it was 2001, Into the Woods for Brian McDevitt. Wonderful play. Musical. Wonderful production. And the first impression about Broadway was very harsh at the time. I was very young and green, didn't know a lot. And I had a plywood tabletop. And I don't think I even had a chair. I don't remember what I was sitting on. But very hostile environment. And, I couldn't pick up anything without permission. Anyway, so many years passed. I did a slave play at New York Theater Workshop, and then we never thought that it's going to get picked up and moved to Broadway, but we did. And Robert was so gracefully brought everybody to the Broadway. There's no we need star this and star that. There's no such thing. Whole family moved to Broadway, but because of the trauma or experience, you can call it, I was a little bit scared. But it was such a wonderful experience. I didn't think that I was actually on Broadway. First, Robert really created a great community. And then my production electrician, Eric Norris, was so wonderful, down to earth, very hands-on, very attentive, always, call me and then ask me questions and ask me if I need anything. And we talk through a lot of things very carefully, like any other production. And there's no a fancy this, fancy that. We didn't trying to make it anything grander than what it was. There's some minor changes, but even script-wise, there's nothing has changed. And we had a exact same mindset. So one night, Robert said, "Don't you think it's exactly like a New York Theater Workshop? You don't know where you are until you walked out the door." And that was really true. And it was just a wonderful experience. And when I did it for Color Girls, and the same thing, the same similar environment with the creative team and the actors and all such, I didn't think that I was somewhere else, and we treated exactly like any show. So yes, it's the same. I hope everybody feels that way. I'm sure that some of the shows are with more high pressure and more money involved, and obviously that's not true. But in my case, I was very lucky to have such a wonderful environment.
Not only that, but it was your first Broadway play, slave play, which itself was quite sensational. I think it got a total of 12 Tony nominations, including yours. So you sweep onto Broadway, one first play, get a Tony nomination. So what was that like? And then can you talk a little about the lighting? The set sort of had a lot of mirrored walls, if I recall, that you had to deal with.
First of all, I just felt so lucky again because when I was a student, I went to see Invention of Love on Broadway. And it really shocked me because my English wasn't very good at the time, but still I was able to follow the story. And I thought it was such a powerful and beautiful play. And somebody looked at me and said, like, it will take 25 years for you to get on Broadway, And I'm like, I didn't even dreamt of it. But if I ever, get on Broadway and design a show, I want to do a play. I want to do a play that is powerful like that. And there was like my mini dream in my head, although that it was like a dream that is impossible. So when I learned that the show moved onto Broadway, I was just so thrilled. It's like couldn't be better. And a lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot, but few lighting designers, young and old, email me about mirror, like how did you do it? But it was actually not difficult because it was a straight, on. So I had like the older systems that was cut out of the wall, and even the front light system that hit the wall mirror, the reflection never really hit above the audience eyes. So it was all great, safe. So yeah, it was successful in that sense.
We didn't touch on this physics interest. Tell me a little bit about the physics interest early on. Why physics, and if the interest in physics from the past is playing a role in your work today.
Right. I was good at math, but not necessarily good at physics, but always kind of curious about it and loved the philosophy of it. So I got into college, and that was my option. I struggled a little bit last year in high school, so my grade wasn't great, and I didn't have a lot of choices. So that was one of my choices, and I'm like, if this is my choice, maybe it's not so bad. But it was bad. I don't think I was very good at it. I barely made it, and finished it. But obviously, I'm good at certain things with math and physics, and I believe that it helped a little bit in terms of a worksheet and such. When I was at Yale later on, after I done some work professionally, I decided to go back to master's program. Somebody I think made kind of joke on me about my very intensive worksheet I would have a Bible thickness of worksheet with all these positions, and I certainly enjoyed that, measuring things and figuring things out.
Did you get a second degree at Yale after Brooklyn?
Yes, I did.
Well, it clearly paid off, because here we are a year later, and you've been nominated for your second Tony for the revival of Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enuf. Can you talk a little bit about the lighting of that show, particularly the LED panels and the impact of the projections?
Right. It was a very difficult play to light, not physically, but conceptually, like how I didn't know. I struggled a lot, how I didn't know how to begin, where to begin. And obviously, Camille helped me a lot, and it's such an inspiration through and through, from the beginning to the end. And in the process and such. And the projection was in the picture very briefly in the beginning, and then we decided not to have it, and then it came back later on. So it was a bit of a, because of the necessity, like we kind of needed it, we figured, and then stepped in kind of later in the process. And then we had to kind of figure out how to arrange the LED panel. And it was a very not friendly environment for me, lighting-wise, because it's a very much dance-driven production, and I really needed side lights from the, like a dance side lighting. But it blocked the half of the stage. So, but we've tried many different configurations, but that was like we thought that we liked the most, and we landed there. But obviously, it was a big challenge for me. But also it helped me to kind of, we exchanged a lot of color palettes, and we exchanged a lot of ideas. He worked very closely with the Camille, with the images and such. So in a way that it helped me to kind of start somewhere, go somewhere, and before I can figure out the puzzle for each scene. So it was challenging, but at the same time, wonderful experience to deal with it. Obviously, I never worked with an LED panel before, so it was my first time, and will not be the first time and last time. But yeah, I learned a lot. I literally learned throughout the whole tech before I arrived at the final stage.
So the projection designer for that was Aaron Ryan. And how did you collaborate with him? I know you said you exchanged color palettes, but what was the sort of actual collaboration like?
So we worked close to Camille, but things that we exchange, obviously sometimes they're somewhat different. So just exchanging a lot of information. What did she say? What did she say about this? Those things really helped. And just seeing the images and going through the storyboard and what makes sense to tell the story and tell the story for each woman really helped me. And he's really kind to share all this information. And obviously, he didn't mind hearing, my opinions. And, it was a very friendly environment in terms of a collaboration. And we'll listen to each other, respond to each other, and change maybe colors. And, if it didn't work with the, projection with the lights and such. So the process was very collaborative and very creative. Wonderful.
Did you look at the original production for any inspiration, or did you just work on this sort of cold, as it were?
I saw a picture when I did it at the public, but didn't really look carefully. No. The thing is, this play is the first show I ever designed as a lighting designer. Before I designed a show at Brooklyn College, I was working for this small theater company. So just to learn craft and how to, navigate myself as a designer and work with director. I grab any opportunity to work. And that was the first show I ever light. And I don't think I quite comprehend the whole play at the time. And when I did the second time at the public, there's some great moments, but not throughout for my own experience. So for me, I didn't want to see some other people's work, and for some reason, that's not what I usually do. So
What is your process for designing, whether it be a new play or a revival? What do you do for research? How do you organize your paperwork?
Um, I always remember first reading being so wonderful without seeing anything on stage. Um, so I always trying to honor that kind of a bare bone place with just the words. So I like to talk about play, not just the lights. And I like talking about characters because maybe I was an actress. I love to talk about characters and where they are and how they lived before and after and now. So I don't usually focus on lights right away. I talk about storytelling. I talk about struggle and why we talk about this at all those things, and then space coming in, and then we talk about space and costumes and such. And light talk comes in very late for me, and sometimes when it's a little difficult, I may even avoid it to tell the story, truth. That's my process.
So you'd rather talk about the play itself and the characters than talk to anybody else about the lighting. You just want to show them how beautiful your work is when you're ready.
Yeah, right. That's it. No, but I think it's not very easy to talk about lights, and then it gets too technical. And I worked with the directors who likes to say, show me some more front light, more side light, no more backlight. How about the other system? And it was, I just don't want to go there. It was not fun experience. So if I just talk about people and the story, I feel like we kind of get it, what it needs to be with the lights. And then I can talk about mood and then emotions. It should be slow, subtle, and tender, or violent and bold. And, it's not necessarily about lights, but then when you start talking about it, in that sense, I feel like a color coming in and how fast it should be and when it has to happen and what kind of flow it needs to be and what kind of angle it needs to be and where the light should come in, light paint the stage and kind of thing will come naturally, I feel. So, yeah, I don't go straight to light talk.
Unless you're coming here.
Unless I come
talk.
here, yeah.
Right.
But it sounds, I'm interpreting what you're saying, and it sounds like you try and stick to the adjectives or the descriptions of how the scene or the moment feels or should feel, and then the visual is a result of understanding that.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
I think so. Wonderful way to put it.
Have you been working primarily with like LED sources?
Yeah, I mean, I love incandescent lights, but when the time came, like I ditched it pretty quickly. I did a show once with this opera company in Philadelphia, and they wanted to do this show in church, and that there was no power whatsoever. So I had just all LED lights, and it was amazing. So ever since that experience, that I had a little less fear, just because I didn't know much, but I just had a great experience. I decided to just use it whenever I could afford. So yeah, I enjoy working with the LED lights, and I still learning. I don't know very well.
Can you just chat a little bit about what you look for when you're bringing your creative team together? What you're looking for in an assistant, perhaps?
So I love working with a programmer. So having to have a great programmer is very important to me. And I used to do all the drafting and everything. I rarely use a system until the tech first day of focusing. But I started to learn now how to use the associate and assistant and how to collaborate with them and how to use their skill to make me look good. Because my drafting skill is not the best. I like to put everything on one paper, and electrician always complain like, too big, give me the small one. So yeah, but my first pick, it's something to think about, is a programmer. Who do I work with? And then I work with the several assistants and associates that I used to, but now I need more new people, so I'm expanding a little bit now.
I think I have the last question, but I want to make an addendum to it. So this is a two-part question. So the question says, what advice would you give to other young designers making their way in the industry? But before you answer that one, could you tell us a story that you would like to share from your career that maybe is entertaining, maybe is a little embarrassing, maybe that is inspirational, something that you would like to just share from your experience? We're our storytellers. Tell us a good story, and then tell the young people what they need to know.
When I was at Yale, I was a workhorse. I got workhorse award from Cabaret. But I learned that there are other people who did more shows. I did 20 shows when I was at Yale, and that's a very hard thing to do on top of what you do. I like not sleeping a lot, and I used to sleep in my studio. People will make an announcement, TDMP people will make an announcement. Don't sleep in between the seats like Gigi, and things like that. I can sleep anywhere, any moment that no one wants me, I will sleep, and then wake up and do things. Sometimes I fall asleep on my tech when I used to hang lights and focus lights and did all that for my own show. By the time I could be very creative, I'll fall asleep. My friend told me once that, because I was working crazy, theater is not short track. Theater is a marathon, you have to steady, and you have to run a long time. And if you run like that, you're going to die, but I still like running fast.
You're young.
I look young.
Well, there you go. Fooled me. You fooled me.
Yes. I think, because of a pandemic, by saying all that, because of pandemic and, because I'm also a woman and I'm a person of color and everything, and equity and all those things, we should ask you for a chair. We should make a room. Take up a room and, get paid what you need, deserve, and all that. But at the same time, I turn a little corner and say, I know, but you still need a little space to work, you need to practice, you need to do a lot of shows, and
like
it's
like a musician, you have to practice. Practice.
Yeah. So it's not good advice. I want people to have better life. I didn't when I was younger. I barely made a living. And I was very tired. That's why I wanted to kind of take a rest. That's why I decided to go to Yale to take a rest for 3 years.
I bet that was relaxing.
It was very relaxing. I was sleeping in between the chairs.
You're sleeping in between the chairs, right? There's the title for the show, Sleeping in Between the Chairs.
Sleeping in the chairs, yeah. But I enjoyed whenever, I learned a lot by making lots of mistakes and such. If I was always picky and trying to save my bottom, and I probably didn't learn as much as I did. I'm not maybe the smartest person. It took a longer time than anybody else, I feel. but I cherish all those experiences. So
Do you think you're easy to work with?
I am very easy to work with.
Well, that's good advice for young people.
Yeah.
Be easy to work with.
No, don't do that. Not always. Yeah. Sometimes you need to say no.
So what are you working on now? What's next?
So I'm working on K-pop musical. There was a designer. I wasn't the original designer. I stepped in the middle of it. After the pandemic, there's some conflict, and then I stepped in. When they did Off-Broadway, I didn't know about the show until much later. And when I heard it's K-pop, I'm like, oh, why they didn't ask me? I'm Korean. So he said, oh, maybe it was meant to be you now. So I'm working on K-pop now. I'm very excited. I'm just so thrilled. I have a great team.
Who are you working with on that?
Kelly, she is my programmer, same as for Color Girls. And then Jacob Zadek is my associate. I never worked with him, but he's fantastic. He's really wonderful. And we have a really great dynamic.
Who is the rest of the creative team?
Gabrielle Evanson, who was the, that's a set designer. And then Peter Nigrini is a projection designer.
Oh, yeah.
And Peter Hilansky is a sound designer. And then Clint and Troy, co-designer, costume designer.
That's a great team.
Very good team, yes.
Yeah. When does that open?
Gosh, November 17th, I think. Yeah, 1 month tech, my dream.
Wow.
Lovely.
Yeah, I always complain, like, tech is so short, preview sucks. Now I have 1 month tech and a 1 month preview. So I'm very excited.
Tell us about yourself or your working. I think your work, from what I've seen in Slave Play, I did not see for Color Girls, but it's beautiful. And on looking at your website, everything seems very clear and precise. You seem to have a very, very clean style, which I really appreciate. It's beautiful work.
I don't know. I mean, I really was so surprised when you approached to me, reach out to me, because during pandemic, I mean, I heard about your podcast before, but I never really made an effort to listen to your program. But during pandemic, it really saved me. I will listen to your program like hours straight all night.
Wow.
Sometimes.
You were really bored.
Yeah.
And you survived that?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed every single conversation and laughs and answering to all these questions and oh, wow, that's a good question. And what do they say about it? And then I saw many masks. I made a lot of fabric masks and, share with friends and such. And so whenever I was doing sewing, I was like, yeah, Lumen's Brothers and SISTAH. So I was like, oh, I'm talking to God. So when you guys email me, I'm like, wow, I can't believe this. Yeah. So just so you know, I was very, very thrilled and honored. So thank you so much.
Great to have you. And this has been a wonderful interview. Sometimes people say they argue with us when they're listening to the show. And sometimes I listen to the show when I'm not on, and I find myself screaming back at David or Steve or Ellen. No.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I think your story is incredible. I mean, the fact that you moved here from Korea and wanted to be an actress and then became a lighting designer and went to Brooklyn College and went to Yale and did 2 Broadway shows and got 2 Tony nominations. And it's quite a story.
Yeah. I feel very lucky, fortunate. But took a long way.
I think we're lucky to have you.
Yeah, thank you. But I'm one of those late bloomer. People really appreciate me for that reason.
Well, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my blooming to happen.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm escaping Egypt, promising land to take 40.
Promised land.
Yeah, promised land.
wandered in the desert for 40 years and
I
40 nights
know.
in Korea.
It was over the hill, but it took me 40 years.
Yeah,
And that's how I feel a lot of times. But it's great to be.
Sometimes good things come to those who wait.
Maybe, yeah. That's it. That's me.
Yeah.
Just keep
But
going.
also, following in the footsteps of a few and paving the way for a lot other women of color who really need to be recognized on Broadway and elsewhere in this industry. So it's maybe a
Yeah,
heavy
not to
mantle
mention
carry,
the women who founded this art form, who don't always get the recognition they should.
right. I mean, the Gene Rosenthals of the world.
Yeah, and the Beverly Emmons and the Pat Collins, and there's a whole
Jennifer
it's a whole
Tipton.
list of them. You stand on the shoulders of some great people, and it's great to meet you and see this beautiful work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really, I really had a good time. And thank you, Stan, for fixing my, sound problem.
There was two lighting designers trying to fix sound. It's always fun.
No, really, thank you. It was great to meet you. And we'll stay in touch to cover your future work for live design.
Okay.
And thank you again for being with us today. And the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again, you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, Amazon Prime Music, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will never miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you decide to litigate us, the Brooklyn law firm with offices in South Korea of Flecht, Flock, Flair, and Glare and their paralegal Snoot will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers and SISTAH, coming to you from St. Bart's, Gainesville, New York City, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to join us next week when we chat about more useless things and explore the crazy shenanigans in our industry.
Light Talk, we are broadcasting questionable, extremely questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
We'll see you next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.